Greetings and salutations, my fellow Illumineers. It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another Lorcana video. As set championships approach, I thought I'd take some time to go over something that's been on my mind for quite some time. I went to a set championship last weekend and I was shocked and surprised at how many players could not shuffle. If this is you, well, stay tuned. You're in for a treat because I have the tips and tricks to get you shuffling correct. Just pull up a seat. If you've been playing TCGs for a long time, this might not be for you, but make sure you get into the comment section and let me know what your favorite method of shuffling is, or some methods that I left out, and what methods you use when you're playing. And while you're down there, make sure you go ahead and like this video and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this in the future. So first, before we get into shuffling and techniques, I quickly want to go over sleeves. Sleeves are very important in the market. Is really saturated with a bunch of different types of sleeves. You might be overwhelmed on which kind of sleeves you want to buy, especially if this is your first TCG. You're going to probably want to go with some of the sleeves that are the official sleeves. Like you see these sleeves, they have the beautiful artwork of the characters on there. I think these sleeves are really cool. Unfortunately, as of right now, these sleeves are not going to be the highest quality. These sleeves are going to rip, they're going to tear when you're shuffling and when you're playing. They look really cool, and for your collection, they're going to be really cool. If you do want to use these sleeves, I would highly encourage you to get some of these over sleeves. You can see here, maybe you guys can see that there are these clear over sleeves that can go over the top of the official sleeves. It makes it for a much easier shuffle, and they will last a lot longer, and they will still look cool. So if you want to represent your favorite card or your favorite IP and you still want to play with these sleeves, I 100% recommend getting these over sleeves. If you don't play the over sleeves, I would not try to play these sleeves in any type of tournament because they will crack and they will rip. Another type of sleeve that I really enjoy is going to be these dragon shields. These dragon shields are everywhere. You'll see them whatever tournament you're going to be at, wherever tournament store, they're probably going to be carrying these. I highly recommend the dragon shield with the dual matte, not just the clear, but the dual matte, and they come in a variety of different colors, and they're pretty robust and they last for some time, and they shuffle quite well as well, and they're not too unfriendly on the pocket. And the third sleeve I want to talk about is my favorite sleeve. Personally, I like to use these. Okay, these are the hyper matte white. These are sleeves I've been using for a really long time. They're very durable. They are a little bit more on the expensive side, but they are quite durable and they shuffle very well. And I think they're really nice quality. And those are the sleeves I have here. So the first shuffling technique that I want to talk about is just going to be a standard mash shuffle. Okay, this is the shuffle that most people are going to use, or most people are going to attempt to use. A lot of things that I see, we'll talk about what I see wrong, and then we'll get into ways to correct that. What the biggest thing I see wrong is people will shuffle their decks like this, which they'll do their mash and they'll have their deck like this. Bruh. This is incorrect for a series of reasons. One, you are completely giving up a lot of free information to your adversary. They can see what colors you're playing. They can see what cards you're playing. Obviously, I know it seems very self-explanatory and very obvious, but people do this very often. They will shuffle like this, and you'll be able to see the cards that are in their deck. So not only is that an unfair advantage to yourself, but that could be considered cheating by a lot of people, and they could call the judge on you. So step one, you're always going to make sure your deck is facing away from not only yourself, but also from your opponent. You want to keep that bottom card face down. You shouldn't have that information, and also your opponent shouldn't have that information. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just cut your deck in half. Again, you're not revealing the half cut. You want to keep it all secure and secret for as long as possible. You take your dominant hand and you place it over the top. So now you're sometimes, maybe you guys can see this, but sometimes you're going to want to put it right in vertically, okay, like a straight parallel situation here, and that's kind of incorrect. And you'll kind of hear it. Maybe I can get closer to the mic, but you'll kind of hear the plastic from your sleeve starting to crinkle, and that's how you damage your sleeves, and then you'll damage your card. So you don't want to do that. What you do want to do is kind of come at an angle like this. It's kind of subtle. You may not see it, but you take your sleeves and you put it at an angle, and you're not pressing. You're just letting it sit, and you're using this index finger and kind of guiding it through. Okay, I'll do it again in slow-mo. And you're just kind of letting it sit and letting gravity and your top finger push it through. You're not fully exerting down, because that's how you damage your sleeves, and that's how you damage the cards inside of the sleeves. We don't want to do that. So again, just here. And when you do this, as you get more comfortable doing this, you want to just keep doing it for a while, and you're never looking at your deck. It's always common courtesy during this time when you're shuffling your deck. As it becomes more second nature, you're taking this time to observe your opponent to ensure that they're doing the same thing that you're doing. So they're not gaining a competitive advantage over you, and you're not gaining a competitive advantage over them. It's more of a gentleman's thing. So you're just sitting here, you shuffle it. Once you feel confident, and then that's when you go ahead and present the deck to your opponent to cut or shuffle or whatever they want to do. I highly encourage you when you go to these set championships, even if you know the person you're playing with, or especially if you don't know the person you're playing with, I highly encourage you to shuffle your opponent's deck. Don't just cut. Always try to shuffle your opponent's deck as well, because and unfortunately that's a part of TCGs, and it hasn't really been a problem in Lorcana yet, but I can only assume that it's going to be something that starts to take place as people start to rig their deck and stack their deck and try to prepare for a half cut. If you don't shuffle their deck, they might be trying to gain some type of competitive advantage over you. So just take their deck and again do the same thing. You look away, you do some mash, and then after that mash you put the deck down, you do the half cut, and then you send it back to your opponent, and then you guys should be ready to play. If someone's taking deep offense to you cutting their deck, then you could call the judge. You are authorized to cut your opponent's deck. No big deal, no big deal, no big deal. Okay, another shuffle that I think is pretty popular is going to be pretty much like the same thing, but you just come from the bottom, okay, and you just do the same thing, but you're just coming up this way like that. Same fundamentals. You just kind of take the deck and just kind of let it go into itself. So that's another type of cut that people use, but I prefer this method. And there's another way you can do it. You can just kind of have it down and you just kind of mash it into itself like this. Again, this is the most this is the most strategic way to kind of preserve that information from your color combinations, because a lot of times people will be looking at your cut, and if you're just giving up, hey, this person is playing these types of things, that'll inform that mulligan a lot easier, and they'll put you at a little bit of a disadvantage. So you want to keep that information as secure as possible for as long as possible. Another shuffle that happens that you could work in, the Riffle shuffle, which I am terribly not a fan of. I think it's not good, especially if you have high value cards and you want to play, and I definitely would encourage you not to Riffle shuffle your opponent's deck, because they could become deeply offended by that. You don't want to be damaging your opponent's cards or anything of that sort. So you could do this to your own deck, but I would not recommend you doing this to your opponent's deck. But again, it's going to be hard to do that because you will be revealing information sometimes accidentally, but as you prep it, you just do like a pack of cards, and then you can put them all in together that way. I still think a standard mash shuffle is a little bit better, but this can work if you are if you can't figure out how to do the standard mash. So it's no big deal. It's no big deal. So you just give it just do this, and this is something that a lot of people, even players who've been playing for a really long time, this is something that you need to practice, that you have to actually sit down and do. So what I would encourage you to do is find like some older sleeves that you may have, and maybe just sleeve up some bulk, and as you're just sitting around watching TV, looking at YouTube, or whatever you're going to be doing, just practice just getting your shuffles in. So you won't have to worry about like leaking any information, but you also will be able to randomize your deck a little bit better. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be hand shuffling. You'll see this happening a lot. And I warn you that if you start hand shuffling, it does become kind of a compulsion. It becomes kind of like an addiction. So hand shuffling is just what it sounds like. So you'll have your cards in your hand, and you'll want to change that information. So I'll show you here. And you'll see players doing this all the time. It becomes like something that is a part of you. It's something that you always want to do. So if you're not hand shuffling, you could be leaking some information to your opponent with just based on the plays. Granted, the information still probably come out anyway, but you don't want to just give it to them freely. So if you are in a situation like, say your hand is completely bricked with high cost uninkable cards, and you just don't have a play, and you're hand shuffling appropriately, you draw a card from the top of your deck. Say if you weren't hand shuffling, this is your hand bricked and unplayable, okay? And you just draw from the top of your deck, add this to your hand, and then you go to play this card. Your opponent's going to know that those three cards in your hand are unplayable because you haven't played them for a few turns. You're just playing off the top of the deck, and you aren't cycling that new information. Whereas if you did do a hand shuffle, you draw the card, and then now you obscure that information that you have, and then you play that same card that you're going to play anyway. Maybe they thought that card was already in your hand, and they won't know that you're bricked unless you, and then now as you're top decking, you continue to do it again, and then you continue to make another play or whatever. So I still think hand shuffling is super important. Granted, it is a little bit annoying when your opponent is just sitting there chaka for 45 minutes, but it's definitely necessary. And also maybe it's a thinking aid, it's a thinking crutch. It's something that you can do while you're waiting for your opponent to play. You just kind of sit here and go over your plays, and it helps your brain function a little bit better perhaps. But it is a compulsion. It's lots of fun, and once you start hand shuffling, you're not going to be able to stop. With hand shuffling, you can vary it as well. You don't have to constantly do the same shuffle. And I can go over that closer so you guys can see just the way that I do it. And there are a multitude of different ways to hand shuffle. You have to have at least 3 or 4 cards in your hand, obviously, and you just take your thumb like this, and you just, as you move, you just grab your thumb and you just take the next card. That's it. And sometimes if once you get good, you can kind of take 2 cards. Sometimes you can kind of go to the back. You can mix it up. So that way your hand is just completely mixed. Because sometimes if a player's really watching your hands, they can kind of see your pattern and maybe they can track that too. But I think that's a little far-fetched. All right, so that's how you do the hand shuffle. I just wanted to make this video really quickly because it's something that has been on my mind for a while, and hopefully if it helps one person, then the game will be a little bit better. So maybe you can use these tools to help yourself in your Store Set Championship that is coming up. And if you like this video, maybe you'll like other videos I did on this channel. And again, make sure you subscribe. Until the next time, I'm JDZ. I'm on a quest. Shout out to the real ones. Salute to the OGs. Peace.